there, today I'm going to make Italian Amaretti or almond cookies. I got my KitchenAid mixer here, which is your standard kitchen mixer, but I bought a special paddle for mine that has scrapers on them. I actually pre-made a batch of these just to remind myself how to do it first, and I found that using the regular whisk did not work so well, so I'm going to use this scraper whisk. And let me describe this to the blind viewers. This is a semicircle that has spokes coming out from a central circle, and it has a very hard ring all the way around the circle, but then attached to the edge of the ring are these little fins. And what happens is we put on the mixing paddle, and this is just the standard. If you've ever seen a KitchenAid mixing paddle, it's the same size and shape as a regular mixing paddle, but what happens with those little fins is they actually scrape down the side of the bowl. So when I lift the bowl, those little fins are actually touching the side of the bowl, and they'll scrape down the bowl for me. I found with the last batch of these I made, I had to scrape down the bowl manually. So I'm going to use my scraper this time. That's the only special equipment that I haven't demonstrated before. So we're going to start with getting some egg whites into the mixer bowl. So I'm going to turn on my scale here.
Hello.
And I'm just going to reach for a liquid measuring cup. And I'm just going to place that on the scale.
601 grams.
And I'm zeroing it out.
0 grams.
And I need 120 grams of egg white, and I have liquid egg whites. The only reason I have liquid egg whites is not something I normally buy, but I had ordered egg bites from Costco, and Instacart decided that they would replace them with egg whites instead of egg bites. So yeah, that didn't work so well. So I just poured some into the cup there.
89 grams.
Maybe 89.
137 grams.
So that's a little over, but the flour I have is a little over, so I'm going to keep that measurement.
135 grams.
Okay. And I'm going to just turn that off for now.
Goodbye.
And I'm going to lower the bowl to pour in the egg whites. Okay. And I'm going to lift it up, and I'm just going to give it a good whip. All right. Normally I would just leave that whisking while I was measuring out my other ingredients, but I want the sound for this to be okay, so I'm not going to do that. All right, so that whipped up quite a bit there now, and I'm going to just now measure the sugar, and we need 300 grams of sugar.
It's ready.
So I'm going to put the bowl on there. Zero out the scale so we know we exactly have 0 grams for the bowl. And I'm just going to pour into the bowl until I hear approximately 300. Oh, we need a lot more than that then.
144 grams.
Okay.
242 grams.
And actually, sorry, 300 was for the fake sugar I used earlier today, so it's going to be 320 grams. going to scoop some back out into the container here until I get close to 320.
345 grams.
Okay, 5 grams back in there.
319 grams.
Close enough. All right, and then I have Bob's Red Mill almond flour.
21 grams.
Sorry, the scale keeps stabilizing itself here. I have some Bob's Red Mill flour here. We buy it at Costco because it's much cheaper at Costco, but you can buy this almost anywhere nowadays. And we need approximately the same amount of flour as we have
468 grams.
sugar. And I happen to know how much is in this bag, which is why I'm like just throwing it in with the sugar. Otherwise I would measure it separately.
583 grams.
And we're close enough there.
620 grams.
Exactly. So I'm just going to turn off my scale now.
Goodbye.
And with my hand, I'm just going to go through and mix. And you'll notice that the almond flour's got some lumps in it. So I'm just making sure to break up the little lumps and reach down to the bottom of the bowl and get the sugar all mixed in nicely with the almond flour. As I do that, I'm just making sure that the clumping and the clumping of the almond flour breaks up. And of course the coarseness of the sugar, you can tell where you have sugar and where you have flour because the sugar is slightly coarser, which is why I'm doing it by hand to make sure I have it all thoroughly mixed. Okay. All right, that looks fairly consistently mixed. I'm going to take some almond extract now and toss it in with my whipped eggs, about a teaspoon. And I'm just going to turn on the mixer again here for a second just to make sure that everything gets mixed nicely. You want the egg whites to be as frothy as possible. So I'm just going to put my finger in, and yes, they're starting to get airy. Of course, these are liquid egg whites, so they're not going to get as airy as real egg whites would. This is approximately 3 egg whites worth of egg white, just if you want to use real eggs, which is what you really should do. I just threw in a 1/4 cup of the flour into the mixer and I'm going to let it incorporate. All right, so I'm going to just show this to you a little bit. I'm going to just drop the bowl. This has had about, I'd say, 2/3 of the batter put in. Make sure you can see into the bowl there, but it's nice and creamy. It's still pretty liquidy. So I'm just going to lift our bowl up again. I learned the hard way that you should never turn the machine on with the bowl down and then lift the paddle or lift it up. I burnt out the machine early on doing that, so I'm going to now just turn it back on and just start throwing in more flour. All right, so I just threw in the rest of the flour here. You'll see it's all sitting there on top. I'm just gonna lift her up again, and we're gonna just mix that flour in. And my instincts were good. The scraper actually, in this case, did scrape down the bowl completely for me. All right, so I finished mixing that rest of that dough offline, and there you go. You look in the bowl there. It's fairly consistent. It's a little moister than I would like, but I think this is going to work. I am just now going to use an ice cream scooper and make the cookies. So the trick to these cookies is they have to all be the exact same size or they don't cook evenly. And some will be cooked more than others, and they have to be fairly small little cookies because these are like biscotti that you dip into a cup of coffee. So you just scoop it and then you level it off, and I level it off with my finger just so that I know that it's leveled off. And then I just put it upside down on the pan, squeeze, and there we have a little round cookie. So I'll make a couple of these for you on camera, and then I'll go offline and make the rest, because someone has once complained that they don't like watching my entire process in these videos. Again, I just filled up the scooper, pat it down, go to the cookie sheet, and squeeze and release. So there we go. I'll come back and show you the final pan. All right, so here we have our final cookies. See, they spread out just a little bit, but not much, and they're still really soft and really hot. But I'm just going to flip one over, and you'll see there they're almost hollow on the inside. They're really, really quite tender and quite delicious. They're very, very super sweet. So if you decide to make them, drop me a comment. Let me know. Be sure to hit like and subscribe.